Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We normally don't get too political here on the program, but I wanted to share with you the author of a book, and it's based on political themes, but also on facts, many of them. It's called The Liberal Record, How Liberals Changed the World. And we're going to dig deep into that book and get inside his head, what he was thinking when he wrote it, how he did his research. Marcelo Brazzi is with us, and it's great to have you along with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Steve?
Doing fantastic. Sunny day there in California, it looks like, in your background.
Yeah, finally, we've had a lot of the rain and cold and for about a month. Now it's finally starting to warm up.
Yep, same thing in the New York area. It's like 51, partly sunny today. So let's get right to it with this book about liberals and how the world has changed. And we can go, and again, I'm not doing politics here, but I do love some of the facts that you have to back that up. And I'd love to get into those. But out of the gate, what inspired you to write this book? Where did it all start?
Yeah, I know. On your comment there, I totally 100% agree. You know, a lot of political stuff is just a bunch of baloney and opinions and and all that stuff. I really tried to go out of my way to limit anything in the book to just basic facts and numbers and dates and times and everything. If you allow me, I'd like to just spend like 2 minutes going over my background. So
Sure.
you have an idea where, my background personally. I grew up in the Midwest. In high school, I was captain of the football team, and I was a champion wrestler in my weight division. I got a scholarship to an engineering school, and I eventually got a master's degree in engineering. From there, I got a job as a spacecraft engineer on the Apollo moonshot. So I worked as a spacecraft engineer. Some other things I've done, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but whatever. I've been able to go up Mount Everest and Kilimanjaro and other mountains that a lot of people aren't aware of. I've done solar eclipse photography all around the world in many different places. I've built a race car, and I rode my Harley Davidson across country. I've run marathons, and now I'm writing. That's just a quick background of myself. I'm retired in California and writing books, and that's kind of my background. And now to get back to why and the book was written. Today, as most people realize, the world we're living in today in politics is much different than it used to be. It's just totally different. I mean, when I was growing up, there was two parties, and you'd agree and disagree, and there was a lot of cooperation and compromise, and everything went along great for 200 years. And then suddenly, believe this or not, on August 4th, 1987, everything changed. Everything changed. And from that point forward, there was very big split between the different parties. The first thing that was the Republican Party started to do with basically with the media. I mean, this is what we're talking about, is the media took a real sharp right turn after 1987. The first objective was to redefine the word liberal. And they've done that, but you can't really change the word liberal. I mean, the word liberal means the same thing in any language at any point in time around the world. Liberal is a liberal. So you can't just say, oh, well, liberals are this, that, whatever. That doesn't work like that. And a lot of people are not aware, and this is part of what's purpose of the book, of the background of liberals and what they've done and who they are. First of all, you can look it up in a dictionary, and I have this in the book. Mm-hmm. A liberal are people, right out of the dictionary. They're open to change. They're open to new ideas. They're open to progress. Comfortable with all, new ideas, new people, new processes, and everything. And conservatives, as the name implies, tend to want to keep things the same. That's not bad. I mean, that could be good in a lot of cases, but in the long run, we have been on a progress. And this again, I go through in detail in the book for the last 300 years, and I attribute it to the invention of printing is when the whole world changed. Not the whole world changed, but I mean, that was a focal point. That was a turning point in politics and social issues. The liberals have been behind all kinds of changes that people are just not aware of. And that's why I wanted to go into it. If you allow me, I'll just read a short list of things that liberals have accomplished.
And by the way, I want to interject here, if I may, that I'm not talking about my political affiliation.
No, I know.
I deal in facts, as you do. That's what we're talking about. Even when I have a conversation with anybody, I sometimes I have to say, these are the facts. The facts don't lie.
Well, I totally 100% subscribe to that. I avoided like the death of putting any opinions in the book. There might be one or two in there, but basically the book has like it's totally factual stuff. I spent 3 years researching it. In the book, I have like 30 graphs and tables and charts and statistics backing up and all the information. And most of it, all of it is new information. This is the point. That it's all new, different things that people are generally not aware of. And that's what, that was my motivation for writing a book. I thought as we were going through this different era of politics, it really bugged me that a lot of it was being ignored. A lot of it was just people were they were only getting a little piece of what's happening. I'd like to read just a short list of liberal accomplishments. Okay. Sure. First one is women voting. The conservatives were, well, not all of them, but many of them, they were totally opposed to women voting, and they fought it all the way. Social Security, they're still fighting Social Security, but that was a liberal accomplishment. Something as simple as a 40-hour work week. We all take that for granted. Well, that again was a liberal promotion that a lot of conservatives were against that, business people mostly. Something like gay marriage, that's a more recent accomplishment of liberals. Medicare, legalized marijuana, paid vacations, the end of slavery, Obamacare, independence from England. These are all changes to our culture and our society that were accomplished by liberals. And a lot of people dismiss that, and they don't understand what the word liberal means and who they are.
I would love to find out in some of these things, and they go back quite a number of years. How did you truly determine that there was a liberal mindset in making those changes?
Well, that goes back to the definition that I mentioned earlier. The definition of a liberal is somebody who is open to changes, progress. Their motivation is liberty. You've heard of the ACLU, individual rights. So I consider anyone a liberal, regardless of party. If you're inclined to want to make progress and give people more rights and equality of everything, legal equality and benefits, and that qualifies you as being a liberal. And if you're the kind of person that just opposes progress, opposes anything that's new or different, I have good friends who are conservatives that they won't even eat something different than what their mother cooked for them. That's how conservative they are. But that's their point of view. I mean, that's, they are who they are. A couple of things in the book that I think are rather that people should be aware of and they're not. Okay. And again, the book is full from cover to cover of information that is basically new and different, that is not commonly known. Let me just throw out a few examples.
Sure.
For example, very few people are aware of the fact that in the last, say, 20, 30 years, there have been 94 Republican administrations who have been convicted of felonies. 94. We're hearing about some of them today, but going back through over the years, there have been 94 Republican administration people who were convicted. Democrats won. There was one Democrat who was convicted of some felony or something. Anyway, that ratio it tells you something. Another thing that most people are not aware of, and again, it's covered in my book with details and charts and tables and everything, is that the economy in the past has always done better under Democrats. You can go back and look at the GPE, unemployment, the stock market, profits, income, all of it. It has always been better under Democrats. And I can go into explaining why some of that happens. It would, take a long time, but anyway, that's just another one of the things that people are not aware of. Another one that kind of bugs me, it's kind of a more recent one, is a lot of people still believe that the 2020 election was stolen, and they're just totally convinced of that. Well, I looked at something that I have not heard anybody mention on any TV or any place, and that is simply the polling that was done prior to the election. Prior to the 2020 election, all the polls, we're talking about 160 polls. We're talking about Fox polls and GOP polls, all of them. The average, you had all these kinds of polls, they all average 51% of the vote for Biden. And guess what the final vote was? 51.3% for Biden. Now, if all those polls are going to tell us exactly what happened, and it's a matter of fact, I mean, you can't just say, well, this is not true. There's no way there could have been fraud and stolen election and all this other stuff that's being tossed around. And when I mention this to people, they say, "Oh, it was a stolen election." I mentioned that, well, all the polls predicted exactly what the results were going to be. They said, "No, it was a stolen election." Well, that goes back to one of my favorite quotes, and that quote is that you cannot win an argument with facts. And that sounds kind of ridiculous, but in experience, that's the way it is. People have very emotional commitment to whatever it is, and you can show them all the facts and numbers, stats, and whatever you want, and that doesn't. They're just not open to listening to anything but that's the way it is. Anyway,
Well, then you know what? It's interesting, Marcello, you bring up that point, because then the facts get debated. Where'd you get the facts from? How do we know that's an actual fact? So, what was the methodology for coming up with those facts? So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And that, and that applies to what I'm talking about, like the polls.
sure.
They'll say, oh, the polls are rigged. Well, no, wait a minute. We're talking about the Fox poll, the GOP poll, and 160 different polling companies. And a little quick side point, the polling companies, if they do not do a good job of polling, they go out of business. Who's going to go to that polling company, that's the university, whatever, if they are messing up the polls and they're coming up with wrong answers? So the polling companies, all of them, they go way out of their way to be accurate, because if they are not accurate, they're going to lose business. So they are motivated by money and everything else to be accurate. And that's they have been successful in doing that, because they have all kinds of ways of focusing in on the actual information.
Mm-hmm.
So my point here is that the book is full of all kinds of information like that. It's not just a bunch of opinions and that. It's full of facts and figures and times and dates and all that stuff. The second thing is that this is a nonfiction book, and nonfiction books typically are very difficult to read. I've started reading some nonfiction books. They put me to sleep in the first paragraph, the first chapter.
I agree with you. And I
Yeah.
try just because I want an escape. Why do we read
Right.
sometimes? And it just, even when I go on vacation, I try
Yeah.
and read a fiction book, and I wind up getting actually reading magazines about business and things like that, because I feel like I'm getting something out of it where I can't find like I'm getting something out of a fiction book, unfortunately.
Nonfiction. Nonfiction.
Not fiction. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, nonfiction. No, yeah. And I think a lot of people write nonfiction books to impress their associates and their professors and everything. They'll look at me. I can write a long sentence with long words and big words, and I tell you, I bought a few of those books, and I can't finish them. I can't, I feel like it's hard for me to even understand some of them. Anyway, my point I'm getting to slowly is that I avoided that in the book. The writing style is very light, a little bit of humor, very easy to read, very straightforward, very uncomplicated. I'm writing strictly for the reader. I used to teach in universities, and I've always been motivated to explain things to people that I know, and I want them to get. The main thing is that they understand what I'm. And if I'm writing some long, complicated stuff, they're not going to get any of it. So I've gone on my way to write a very easily read, easily understood, enjoyable, and interesting style. Now, my next point is that the combination of all the facts and figures and data that's in a book, which some people enjoy learning. There are people who love to learn new things. I'm one of them. I'm watching documentaries on TV, and I'm always trying to learn things, right? Well, people who enjoy learning new things, they love this book. I get comments all the time. They go, "This is amazing. Yeah, I really got a lot out of it."
I do have to point out that you have many, many fantastic reviews about the book.
Yeah, and I was just going to read a couple if you don't mind.
Yeah, you know what? Whenever you're ready.
Okay. There is a John Kelly from the Detroit Free Press. He wrote, "This book is essential reading." Maria Beltran, a professional reviewer, she wrote, "Must read, highly informative, 5 stars." Two more. Grady Harp, he's a professional reviewer. He wrote, "A brilliant book, very, very highly recommended." And then lastly, there's more, but I'm not going to read all of them. But a famous attorney named David Simon, he said, "Everyone should read this book." And that's kind of what I felt when I wrote the book, that I wanted to explain to people and fill them in on the background of the policies and history, like some of the accomplishments we talked about. I feel people should be aware of all those things, and so I've gone out of my way to put in a lot of information that, and everybody, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, "Oh man, I didn't know that. I was surprised to read that, and I hear that all the time, and so anyway, that I'm just telling you what it is. But you know what? That raises a question. It raises a question in my mind. What causes people to believe and follow some of this stuff that is so far it's just, to me, it's just so amazing that they believe some of this stuff. These conspiracies are unbelievable, so anyway, I did a little bit of research. Like I said, I spent 3 years doing research and all kinds of things. There's like 3 or 4 reasons why people fall into that category. Now, believe it or not, there's some correlation between the DRD4 gene and people who are, tend to believe things that are that fall into this category. I'm not saying the DRD4 gene, everyone who's got one is going to be like this, but the studies have shown there is a correlation there between that. Another one is environment that you're raised in. Of course, that's normal. I mean, if you're raised in an environment where all your friends and relatives believe a certain way, well, you're going to pretty much go along with that. One more is that as we get older, we change, of course. One of the ways people change as they get older is they no longer have the financial stability and income they used to have that bothers them. They no longer have the physical strength and endurance and as they're getting older, and they're losing their family. So basically, as you're getting older, you feel more weak, more susceptible, more victimized, and so that drives them to the point where they want to return to the past. They want to be the world that they had, in the past, and that's why they're talking about returning to things to the way they were. Well, that's never going to happen, of course. But I'm just saying that's kind of the mentality as we get older. And also the DRD4 gene.
And I agree with you on that. It's just that it's the way we're wired. It's almost as a fight or flight. So as you get older, even animals, they don't they're not the same type of predators anymore. They kind of chill back a little bit, which in my mind would take somebody more conservative, because just got to hunker down, got to be careful, got to watch our spending. Remember what the old days were like? Well, back then we didn't have to, and I'm not panning anybody who's older at all. And it's perfectly understandable. We have a couple of minutes left. I want to flip it just for a sec. Is there anything in your mind, Marcello, where you look at liberals and something was done that shouldn't have been done, in your opinion? Is there anything that stands out? And nothing's perfect. Nothing.
Well, I am not opposed, but I mean, kind of not in total agreement with one of the policies of so-called liberals, and that's the policy of I'm struggling for words here. Where benefits are given. There's a word for it. I can't remember, but where people who are not qualified are given benefits and promotions and hired not on their merits, but on the fact of who they are, where they came from. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Anyway, I'm pretty much believe in promoting and hiring people strictly for their merits. I mean, and let people in the school. If you're a good student, you should get an education. But opening up jobs and schools to people who are marginally qualified, I suppose you could make some allowances for that. But that's something I'm a little bit against. I have another little bit of a disagreement with the death penalty. Lots of liberals, no. Lots of people saying that we should or shouldn't have the death penalty. Well, I sometimes it bothers me because it depends on the case. I mean, some cases are so horrific. There's no punishment that's equal to what they've done. I mean, they shoot little kids and torture people and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, it's another issue that I'm ambivalent about in regards to liberal and conservatives. trying to think of some other ones.
Well, I think those are fine. And we are just about out of time. But I want to tell you, Marcelo, politics aside,
Yeah.
the book, well written, to the point, even on your website, which is theliberalrecord.com, you can see some of the facts, a lot of the facts that we're talking about. But one thing I find refreshing is that you're not shoving it down anybody's throat. It's here it is. You've done the research, 3 years of research, you put it all together, and here it is. People take a look at it, see what it is. Maybe this aligns with you.
No, I welcome criticism. I encourage it. And if I've screwed up something, fine, tell me, I'll fix it. I mean, so I'm not on a campaign to change people's minds. I just absolutely am not. My only thing is that I want people to have the facts. That's all. And before we go, I'd like to add one last comment.
Sure.
I'm looking for an agent.
Well, okay.
All your agents.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, because you've got something here, whether somebody believes in the liberal philosophy or not. You could be talking about great pasta dishes, and somebody may not like carbs, but the facts stand that the flavor's there. There's different types of pasta. It's prepared al dente and all other different ways. There it is. The information is there. You can choose whether you want to, go deeper into it. But out of the gate here, I love the fact on your website that you provide some of the pages of the book and give us a better feel for it. And again, well done. The reviews are there as well. It's called The Liberal Record: How Liberals Change the World. We got 15 seconds left. What do you want to say? Anything you want? Somebody's wondering whether they should kind of pivot in that direction. What would you say?
Well, I think the best thing to be said is the reviews. The reviews, they were better than I expected. And I thought, well, I know I did good work. I did a lot of good research and everything. But, look at the reviews. The book is highly packed with information, very much factual information that you're not aware of. Yeah. And it's written very easily, a very easy, fun read. So anyway, that's
you know what I detect from you? You're humble.
Well, I try to be realistic,
Yeah.
I'm not one here to toot my horn and say, hey, look at me. I'm down to earth, realistic. I don't know. Maybe that's why my engineering background's reflected in the fact that, in engineering, you can't deal with BS. You gotta do the job right, and you have to look at the facts and the numbers and everything. So it's, I just want people to understand what's going on. That's all.
Yeah. Interesting background that you bring to this book from all, from teaching, engineering, and all of that. And lots more to talk about next time if we get a chance to get together. Marcelo, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Steve. You're a very good host.
And you're a great writer.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.